Hello. Happy Monday. Happy Star Wars Day. I have my Star Wars shirt on. Force Awakens. Did you know that today is Star Wars Day? And the reason is because of a pun or a play on words. Today's date is the 4th of May. So on the 4th of May, you can say, "May the 4th be with you," which I think is adorable. So today is Star Wars Day. So happy Star Wars Day. I'm going to continue reading Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library by Chris Grabenstein. But first, I want to show you this. This is my cat, Charlie. That's not what I was going to say. Charlie, I'm going to show him a book. Hold on. Charlie. Okay. I have this book. I don't remember where I got it. Probably a yard sale or something. I've had it for a long time. A pop-up book, Star Wars Return of the Jedi. It's from Random House. But of course, it was also published by Lucasfilm Limited because, you know, in the olden days, Star Wars was not a Disney production. It was Lucasfilm. And this is from 1983. So this is right around the time The Return of the Jedi came out. I didn't look it up to find out exactly, but I think it's probably the same year. So this would have been, this would be vintage now, right? It's, gosh, almost 40 years old. And it, you know, it would have been come out at the same time to promote the movie for kids, which I think is pretty awesome. So I'm just going to show it to you or read it to you real quick. It doesn't have very much text, but it's got some really cool pop-outs. And it's old and hasn't been kept in perfect condition, so we'll notice some issues with it, but that's okay. It's still enjoyable. An Imperial shuttle brings Darth Vader to the new Death Star. This shuttle is really cool because the wings fold up. I think they made Kylo Ren's ship in a similar way for the newer movies. R2-D2 and C-3PO arrive at Jabba's palace. I don't see this much anymore, but did you know they sometimes write out R2-D2 like this and C-3PO like that instead of using the numbers and the letters? So we have Jabba's palace, and then watch this. Jabba greets the droids. Here's Jabba the Hutt. Like a big slug. Leia frees Han from the carbon freezing chamber. This is a really cool effect. See, of course, I hope I'm not spoiling anything if you haven't seen the movies, but obviously they're very old, so she's disguised as a bounty hunter, but really it's Leia. She takes her helmet off, and there's Han. He falls. In the movie, he falls very ungracefully out of the carbon freezing container, but it looks like he's just stepping jauntily out in this one. Luke falls into Jabba's trap. Nah. This is obviously a quick summary of the movie. Jabba takes the rebels to the Sarlacc pit, but they escape. See, there's the ship they were on. And there's the Sarlacc. Very gross. That was probably, like, for me when I was a kid watching that movie, one of the scariest parts. This is when they get captured. Oh, this one doesn't work. There, it's supposed to go up like that, see? Because they get pulled up into the trees. And it says, the Ewoks net the rebels on the planet Endor. The Ewoks see Luke use the Force. Then they join Luke's side. See, he uses the Force to lift 3PO up. Ooh. Okay, Charlie. She's such a camera hog, I know. Oh, I don't know. Okay. Imperial biker scouts chase after the rebels. Watch this, behind the bush. Those were so cool, the hover motorcycle things. Luke and Darth Vader battle on the Death Star. Now, you have to imagine, because this is broken, they don't have any lightsabers in their hands. Originally, they were little plastic lightsabers that actually lit up red and green. I think it's red and green. And then when you pull this, it looks like they're battling. So now it just kind of looks like they're dancing because it broke. Like I said, this is a very old book. Okay, here we go. The rebels blow up the Death Star. There's the X-Wing going after the TIE fighter. The rebels and the Ewoks celebrate their victory over the Empire. There's everybody. The end. I thought this was the perfect time to show that book off. All right. That was just a few minutes. Now we'll get into Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library by Chris Grabenstein. Hopefully Charlie will calm down a little bit now that I'm not showing the picture book anymore. I love pop-up books. They're a lot of fun. They're fun for kids and adults. Problem is they don't often last very long because they're pretty delicate, so we have to be extra careful with them. My wild thing is telling me we're on chapter 23, page 114. And this book is, I can't remember if I've mentioned this so far. This book is 288 pages long, so we're not quite halfway through yet. Oh, and today I have my big coffee mug that says, "All I want to do is drink coffee and pet my cat." And in the bottom of it, it's full of coffee right now, so you can't see it. But when you drink it all, in the bottom, there's a cute picture of a cat in the very bottom of the mug. There's not a cat on the outside of the bottom. Okay. Kyle flipped over his lemon-scented super-duper bonus card and read what was written on the other side. You will find the ultimate version of this board game on the second floor balcony circling the rotunda. Huh? Said Akimi. What's that mean? I don't know. Let's roll out the paper and see. Akimi and Sierra helped Kyle anchor the edges of the scroll on the tiled floor. Okay, said Kyle. It looks like the early sketch for a board game. See the circle in the center of the other circle? That's probably where you place the spinner. You move your pieces around the 10 rooms. He stopped. Wait a second. What? Said Akimi. Do you recognize the game? Asked Sierra. Yep, said Kyle. I played it this week with my brother Curtis. It's Mr. Lemoncello's bewilderingly baffling bibliomania. It takes place in a make-believe library. What about finding the ultimate version up on the second floor balcony? Asked Sierra. Kyle grinned. You'll see. Coming up from the basement, Kyle saw Andrew Peckelman in the middle of the rotunda reading room, opening a long metal box sitting on top of the center desk. The holographic image of Mrs. Tobin was there, smiling patiently, as Peckelman pulled some kind of magazine out of the box. Miguel was also near the librarian's desk, apparently waiting his turn for a consultation. That's the box we saw the robot pluck off the shelf, whispered Akimi. Kyle nodded. He motioned for the others to follow him and slipped around the circumference of the rotunda. Akimi and Sierra slunk after him. In the shadows on the far side of the room, they saw Haley Daly heading for the staircase they'd just come up, steps that would take her back to the basement. Kyle wondered if she'd found something else to crawl through. If so, he hoped it was bigger than a mailbox. Is this the real magazine? He heard Peckelman shout at the hologram. Yes, Andrew. This concludes your librarian consultation. Next, how may I help you, Miguel? Not so fast, snapped Andrew. I'm not done. Your consultation just concluded, said Miguel. Says who? The librarian. Miguel, said the hologram of Mrs. Tobin, what is your question? Sorry, bro, I told you. She's just like Mrs. Junghans at school, snapped Peckelman. All the librarians like you better than me. Yo, ease up. You'll see, Mrs. Tobin. You'll all see. I'm going to beat Miguel Fernandez big time, and when I win, I'm going to tell Mr. Lemoncello to fire you. She's a hologram, said Miguel with a laugh. You can't fire somebody who doesn't actually exist. Then I'll tell Mr. Lemoncello to pull her plug. Peckelman grabbed his magazine and stormed out of the rotunda into the lobby. I guess Andrew's planning on doing something with the front door, whispered Akimi. Kyle whispered to Akimi. Well, that's totally dumb. They already told us the way out isn't the way we came in. Maybe Andrew doesn't think that Dr. Zinchenko was telling us the truth, suggested Sierra. Come on, said Kyle, leading his team toward the closest staircase up to the second floor. Glancing over his shoulder, he watched Miguel place a slip of paper on the table in front of the semi-translucent librarian. This item has been temporarily removed from the stacks, Miguel, said Mrs. Tobin. You will find it in a display case next to the original Winkle and Grimble scale model. Let me give you that location. There was a grinding sound, like when movie tickets shoot up through the slot at the box office. Miguel snatched the small square of paper that popped up from the librarian's desk and spun around. He froze the instant he saw Kyle, Akimi, and Sierra sneaking around the room behind him. Chapter 24. Hey, said Miguel, hiding the tiny square of paper behind his back. Yo, said Kyle. What's up? Nothing, just, working the puzzle. Yeah, us too. Okay, later. Both boys thumped their fists on their chests like baseball players do. Miguel turned and ran for a staircase winding up to the second floor. Come on, you guys, said Kyle as he took off running for a different set of steps. When Kyle, Akimi, and Sierra made it up to the balcony, they watched Miguel run up to the third floor. As soon as he disappeared into a room up there, Kyle unrolled the game sketch. Look at the drawing, then look down at the floor, said Kyle. They're the same, said Sierra. Exactly. A circular room with a round desk at the center of the circle. Awesome, said Akimi, and there are 10 doors ringed around the balcony up here on the second floor, just like on the game board. Kyle tapped the rendering of the spinner in the right-hand corner of the game plans. See how the spinner is divided into 10 different colored sections numbered 0 to 9? It looks like the Wonder Dome, said Akimi, when it's not doing its kaleidoscope thing or running a video that makes you think the building is hang gliding across Alaska, which totally made me airsick. Well, in the game, you have to go into all 10 Dewey Decimal book rooms and answer a trivia question about a book. If you answer correctly, you slip a book into your bookshelf and move on to another part of the library. When you have 10 books, one from each room, it's basically a race to see who can exit the library first. Okay, said Akimi, sounding pumped. This is good. This is major. Except one thing's missing, said Kyle. What? asked Sierra. Mr. Lemoncello always works a clever backdoor shortcut into his games. For instance, in Family Frenzy, you can use the cool chute to slide into the millionaire's mansion at the end, said Akimi. Exactly. And in that castle game, Charles snuck out through the sewers. Anyway, when my brother Curtis beat me at Bibliomania. You lost? Akimi acted surprised. It happens. Occasionally. But only because Curtis used this shortcut. Kyle tapped a black square on the game diagram. It took him straight out to the street. He beat me by one spin of the spinner. I don't see any black squares in the floor of our rotunda, said Akimi. Maybe, said Sierra, for this new game, Mr. Lemoncello put the secret square someplace besides the main room. Kyle nodded. And maybe to win this new game, we need to play the old one. You're a genius, said Xxvii. No, my brother Curtis is the genius. I just like to play games. So, do libraries even have board games? Sure, said Sierra. I think. I mean, the library in my dad's town has them. Which department? Asked Xxvii, pulling out her floor plan. Young adult. Xxvii tapped her map. 3rd floor, stairs over there. Let's go, said Kyle. But before they could take off, they heard Mr. Lemoncello's voice echoing in the rotunda. Are you ready for your extreme challenge, Bridget? Kyle and his teammates peered over the edge of the balcony. Bridget Wadge was alone in front of the librarian's desk, staring up at the ceiling. Yes, sir, she said. Are you sure? Mr. Lemoncello's voice boomed out of hidden speakers. You still have 22 hours to find the exit. I want to go for it now, sir. Get a jump on everybody else. Very well. Dr. Zinchenko, reset the statues. The 10 holographic statues in their recessed nooks flickered off, leaving black and empty spaces. This extreme challenge is based on the classic game of author's card game, said Mr. The classic game of authors card game, said Mr. Lemoncello. Here are the authors in your deck. Magically, new holographic statues appeared as Mr. Lemoncello rattled off the authors' names. Charles Dickens, Raymond Chandler, Edgar Allan Poe, Agatha Christie, Patricia Highsmith, Mario Puzo, Frederick Forsyth, John le Carre, Dashiell Hammett, and Fyodor Dostoevsky. He wrote Crime and Punishment, said Bridget excitedly. Indeed he did. In fact, said Bridget, all those authors wrote crime novels. Correct again. However, that's the easy part. Dr. Z, how do we make this author's game ridiculously difficult enough to qualify as an extreme challenge? Simple. The librarian's voice echoed under the dome. You will have 2 minutes, Bridget, to name 4 books written by each of our authors. Kyle gulped. That's impossible, he whispered. Not really, said Sierra. She was about to start rattling off titles when Mr. Lemoncello said, Go! The sound of a ticking clock reverberated around the room. Okay, said Bridget down on the main floor. Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express, 10 Little Indians, Death on the Nile, The Mousetrap. Somewhere a bell dinged, and the British lady in the sensible shoes disappeared. Poe, The Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Mask of the Red Death, The Purloined Letter, The Cask of Amontillado. Another ding. Another statue vanished. Bridget kept going. Man, whispered Kyle. What grade is she in? College? 7th, said Xxvii, just like us. Bridget Wadge kept tearing through the authors. The bell kept dinging, but the clock kept ticking too. 10 seconds, said Mr. Lemoncello. Bridget had saved the worst for last. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Crime and Punishment. Crime and Punishment. The one about the brothers. The brothers. And then she stalled. She'd run out of gas. A buzzer sounded. I'm sorry, Bridget, said Dr. Zinchenko, but as we advised you, the extreme challenges are extremely difficult. You will be going home with lovely parting gifts. Kindly hand your library card to Clarence, and thank you for playing Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's library. That settles it, muttered Kyle. I am never, ever asking for one of those extreme challenge dealios. Me neither, said Xxvii. I might, said Sierra. Maybe. And then she showed Kyle and Xxvii the rumpled sheet of paper where she had written down 5 book titles for all 10 authors. Chapter 25. Xxvii grabbed the door handle to the young adult room. It's locked. Here, said Sierra. Use my library card. Huh, said Xxvii. Your books on the back are different too. I think they all are. I got the Egypt game and the Westing game. 2 books about games? Said Kyle. Sweet. Xxvii slipped Sierra's card into a reader slot above the doorknob. The door clicked. Kyle pushed it open. The walls of the young adult room were painted purple and yellow. There were swirly zebra print rugs on the floor and a lumpy cluster of beanbag chairs. A couple of sofas were designed to look like Scrabble trays with letter square pillows. Akimi nudged Kyle in the ribs. Check it out. In the far corner stood a carnival ticket booth with a mechanical dummy seated inside. A fun and games banner hung off the booth's striped roof. The dummy inside the glass booth? He looked like Mr. Lemoncello. He wasn't wearing a turban, but the Mr. Lemoncello mannequin reminded Kyle of the Zoltar Speaks fortune teller booths he'd seen in video game arcades. That's not really him, is it? Said Akimi, who was right behind Kyle. No, it's a mechanical doll. The frozen automaton was dressed in a black top hat and a bright red ringmaster jacket. Since the booth had the fun and games banner, Kyle figured you might have to talk to the dummy to get a game. Hello, he said. We'd like to play a board game. Bells rang, whistles whistled, and chaser lights blinked. The mechanical Mr. Lemoncello jostled to life. If you want a game, just say its name. The life-size puppet's blocky jaw flapped open and shut, almost in sync with the words. Do you have Mr. Lemoncello's bewilderingly baffling bibliomania? Did Joey Pigza lose control? Was Ella enchanted? Huh? Just say yes, suggested Sierra. Yes, said Kyle. Well, great Gilly Hopkins, said the Lemoncello dummy. Here you go. Kyle heard some mechanical noises and some whirring. Then, with a clunk, a wide slot popped open in the front of the booth, and a game box slid out. Enjoy, said the dummy. And remember, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. So be sure to read the instructions so you'll know how to play the game. Kyle took the box to a table. Okay, he said, raising the lid. Let's set it up, and there was a beep, and the door opened. Where is he? Andrew Peckelman barged into the room, waving his antique magazine, something called Popular Science Monthly. Who are you looking for? Said Kyle. Mr. Lemoncello, I heard him. Is he in here? Kyle pointed toward the frozen Lemoncello doll sitting in the carny booth. It's a dummy. Peckelman whipped his head around from side to side. Is there a camera in here? Right over the door. Peckelman spun around to face it. Kyle, Akimi, and Sierra formed a human shield to hide their bibliomania box. I want to use a second lifeline, Peckelman shouted at the camera. I want to talk to an expert. Very well, said a calm voice Kyle immediately recognized as belonging to Dr. Zinchenko. With whom do you want to speak? The guy who wrote this stupid magazine article about cracking open bank vaults in the 1930s. I'm afraid we cannot arrange that for you, Andrew. Why not? The guy's a moron. He didn't tell me anything about how to open the front door, which is what my Google search said this magazine would do. We told you the way out isn't the way in. That was just a red herring, a trick to throw us off, of course. No, Andrew, it was not. What is the title of the article? Newest bank vaults defy the cracksman. Ah, well, that should have been a hint. Apparently, the reporter concluded that thieves could not break open the vault doors. When doing internet research, it is important to... Let me talk to the stupid idiot. I am sorry. That magazine was published in 1936. The reporter is dead. Well then, I want to talk to Mr. Lemoncello. Excuse me? I want to talk to Mr. Lemoncello. This is highly irregular. And so's this game. You people have it rigged so Miguel Fernandez will win. I know you do. That's why Mr. Lemoncello is afraid to talk to me. Kyle heard the carnival booth dummy clatter back to life. Hello, Andrew. How may I help you? This Lemoncello didn't sound pre-recorded. Apparently, the real deal was using the dummy to do his talking. Your library stinks, shouted Peckelman. Oh dear. Have you boys been playing that castle sewer game again? No, but this stupid article should have given me the stupid answer, but the stupid writer didn't write what he should have written. I see. And can you rephrase that in the form of a question? How many can I ask you? Just one, and then we're done. Okay, you're the expert on this stupid new library game. So where's your favorite contestant? Where's Miguel? Is that your final question? Yes. Assuming our video monitors are correct, Mr. Fernandez is on the other side of the third floor doing research in the art and artifacts room. Thanks. Andrew bolted out the door. The Lemoncello puppet bucked and drooped into its off mode. Kyle sprang up from the table. Come on, he said to Akimi and Sierra. Akimi sighed. Now where are we going? To make sure Peckelman doesn't do something stupid that gets Miguel kicked out of the game. And why would we do that? Because Miguel's our friend. Akimi glanced at her floor plan. The art and artifacts room is on the other side of the circle. Sierra, stay here and guard the game box. Come on, Akimi. Kyle and Akimi looped around the third floor balcony to the other side. Kyle glanced at his watch. It was almost 3 p.m. They really needed to start focusing on the game and not all this other monkey junk. As they neared the art and artifacts room, there was a shout and the door flew open. Andrew Peckelman came running out. Behind him were a woman with the head and tail of a lioness and a pharaoh in a cobra headpiece. The pharaoh stopped. May onions grow in your earwax. And a series of holographic hieroglyphics danced across the air. Andrew Peckelman raced to a staircase, grabbed both handrails, and hurried down to the second floor. The Egyptians vanished. Kyle and Akimi entered the art and artifacts room and found Miguel seated at a desk with what looked like blueprints. You okay? Asked Kyle. Yeah, man, I'm fine, thanks. Those guys chasing Andrew, where'd they come from? Holograms from the giant Lego Sphinx and Pyramid exhibit. So why'd they turn on Andrew? Asked Akimi. I don't know. One minute he's yelling at me, the next, the Pharaoh and Sekhmet are yelling at him. Sek who? Said Kyle. Sekhmet, said Akimi. The Egyptian lion goddess and warrior. Haven't you read The Red Pyramid by Riordan? It's on my list, said Kyle. Or it would be. He definitely needed to start a reading list soon so he could catch up with everybody else. I bet the security guards in the control room fired up the Egyptian holograms when they saw Andrew going berserk in here, said Akimi. Good, said Miguel. A library is supposed to be a place for peaceful contemplation. That was when Sierra Russell rushed into the room. You guys, right after you left, the Mr. Lemoncello dummy spit out a bonus card. Chapter 26. Very clever, said Charles, pulling another silhouette card out of a book. Recognize that? I've seen that on road signs. The cover had been easy to find. It was the third book on the top shelf of the staff picks display. The image on the front was a bright yellow yield sign. The title? Universal Road Signs by renowned trafficologist Abigail Rose Painter. Charles had found the matching book in the 300s room on the second floor. The 300s were all about social sciences, including things like commerce, communications, and, ta-da, transportation. The image also fit nicely with the pictogram he had found in the 700s room in a book called The Umpire Strikes Back. That baseball book was the first cover on the second shelf in the display case and had given Charles a card with the classic pose of an umpire calling an out. The Umpire Strikes Back. We just read The Empire Strikes Back. Reading the images from left to right, then down, just like you read a book, Charles knew he was on the right track. The traffic sign book gave him walk, and the umpire book gave him out. Put the two picture words together, and he had walk out. Clearly, if he could find all 12 silhouettes, the staff picks display would tell him how to walk out of the library. Although he had absolutely no idea what the first image he had found, the quarterback tossing a pass, had to do with escaping the library. Not yet, anyways. 3 down, 9 to go, said Charles, winking up at the closet's closest security camera. And, Mr. Lemoncello, if you're watching, may I just say that you are an extremely brilliant man. Charles had never sucked up to a video camera before. He figured it was worth a shot. Maybe Mr. Lemoncello would send him a bonus clue or something. Instead, when Charles stepped out of the 300s room, somebody sent him Andrew Peckelman. The goggle-eyed library geek was sputtering mad as he rushed down the steps and stomped around the second-floor balcony. Stupid library, stupid Lemoncello, stupid Sphinx and Sekhmet. Why so glum, Andrew? Charles called out. Because this game stinks. Mr. Lemoncello just sent a bunch of holograms hurling hieroglyphics at me. He could have put somebody's eye out with those things. Really? With a hologram? Hey, they're made with lasers, aren't they? Indeed. Say, speaking of hieroglyphics, where might I find a book about picture languages? Ha! Why should I help you? Because Kyle Keeley is working with Akimi Hughes and Sierra Russell. I imagine it is only a matter of time before your friend Miguel Fernandez joins their team, too. Miguel isn't my friend. Besides, I'm better at navigating my way through a library than he'll ever be. I know. That's why I want you on my team. Really? Charles smiled. Kids like Andrew Peckelman were so easy to manipulate. Oh, yes. Work with me, and I guarantee you the world will know that you should be the head library aide at Alexandriaville Middle School. The 400s, blurted Peckelman. Pardon? That's where you'll find books on hieroglyphics in all kinds of languages. If you want secret codes, those are in the 600s room. The 650s, to be exact. Charles shot out his hand. Welcome to Team Charles, Andrew. The new teammates stepped into the 400s room. For some reason, it was pitch dark and smelled like pine trees. Bienvenida, bienvenue, vitami, kurukabrabisha. Welcome, boomed a voice from the ceiling speakers. This is the 400s room, home of foreign languages. Here, Charles and Andrew, you can learn all about your American heritage. A bank of spotlights thumped on. Charles and Andrew were face to blank face with a row of 4 featureless mannequins. An overhead projector beamed a movie onto dummy number 2, turning it into a perky woman who looked like a flight attendant. Hello, and welcome to Your American Heritage. I'm Debbie. Let's begin your voyage. That's okay, said Charles. We're rather busy. Let's begin your voyage, the mannequin repeated. Charles sighed. Obviously, there was no way to turn this silly display off. He might as well speed things along by telling the dummy what it wanted to hear. Fine, but can we go with the abridged version? We're in a bit of a rush. Yeah, added Andrew. We have to escape before noon tomorrow. The woman, whose body remained frozen while a movie made her face and costume spring to life, reminded Charles of the graveyard statues from the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney World. While we research our family trees, she said, please enjoy this short and informative film. Is this part of the game? Andrew whispered to Charles. Possibly. Pay attention for any bonus clues. Okay, what do they look like? Who can ever say? A screen behind the life-size dummies leapt to life with all sorts of scratchy images of people huddled together on the deck of a boat near the Statue of Liberty. For decades, narrated the ceiling voice, public libraries have proudly served America's newest citizens, the immigrants who flocked to these shores yearning for the freedom to build their own American dreams. Charles wasn't really interested in this kind of stuff. His ancestors were all Americans. The only language they spoke was English. Yes, the library is where many new arrivals journey first to learn their new homeland's language, to keep in touch with the world they left behind, to search for the gainful employment that will make them productive residents of their newly adopted home. The movie dissolved into blackness. Thank you for your kind attention, chirped the cheerful Debbie. We have completed your American family tree. Let's meet your first American ancestors. 2 mannequins sprang to illuminated life, both of them dressed in traditional Thanksgiving pilgrim costumes. I know who they are already, said Charles. That's John Chiltington and his wife, Eleanor. They came to Plymouth Colony on the Mayflower. Can we move on to Andrew's family, please? Of course, said Debbie. The mannequins quickly went through Andrew Peckelman's ancestry. Apparently, the family name had originally been Pickleman because they made pickles. After a prolonged parade of pickle people, the dummies took on the guise of Andrew's most famous ancestor, a guy in horn-rimmed glasses and a tweed sports coat named Peter Paul Peckelman. I appeared on the TV game show Concentration in 1968, he announced, and won a room full of furniture and wood paneling from my rumpus room. Charles smiled. He knew the TV game show Concentration was very similar to Mr. Lemoncello's phenomenal picture word puzzler, one of the games he had picked up at the toy store. Peter Paul Peckelman's claim to fame was further confirmation that piecing together the picture puzzle would show Charles how to escape from the library. He'd been right. The dummies had just given him a bonus clue. All right, we'll do one more chapter because there's only a few pages long. And then we'll be done for today. Chapter 27. Excited by the sudden appearance of a second bonus card, Sierra read it out loud. 2 plus 2 can equal more than 4. Put 2 and 2 together, and you'll be closer than before. Akimi raised her hand. Yes, said Sierra. You do realize that Miguel here isn't on our team? Oh, right. Sorry. Miguel turned to Kyle. You guys are a team? Yep. Want to join? Maybe. Not sure. Check back with me later, man. No problem, said Kyle. He fist-thumped his chest. Miguel fist-thumped his. They were flashing each other peace signs when Sierra said, I think this means we should all play together as a team. Remember what it says on the fountain down in the lobby? Knowledge not shared remains unknown. Maybe, said Miguel. Like I said, let me get back to you guys. I'm working on a few angles of my own, flying solo. Sure, no problem. Kyle was about to do the whole fist chest bump peace sign thing again when he had a brainstorm. Miguel, quick question. What's on your library card? Miguel shrugged. My name and the number 1. Anything else, like on the back? Nothing really. A couple of books. 2? Yeah. What's their titles? Miguel bit his lip. Don't want to say. Because you think they might be clues. Not saying what I might or might not be thinking, bro. Kyle nodded. There are 2 different books on the back of everybody's library card, said Akimi, thinking out loud. Put 2 and 2 together and you'll be closer than before? The book titles are some sort of clue. My books are one, Akimi, Kyle shook his head, nodded toward Miguel. Right. Sorry. My bad. Okay, Miguel, said Kyle. If and when you decide to team up with us, you can show us the 2 books on the back of your card. We'll all show you ours. We'll also split the prize 4 ways. Deal? Deal. Come on, guys. Kyle gestured toward the exit. Where are we going? Asked Sierra. Kyle dropped his voice. The Electronic Learning Center. You want to play video games? Said Akimi. Now? Seriously, Kyle, we may need to rethink your status as team captain. I don't want to play video games. I want to check out the discard pile. Huh? The cards the players who went home early dumped into that goldfish bowl. I'm coming with you guys, said Miguel. I've been thinking about those extra cards too. Fine, said Kyle. Whatever. When they entered the game room, they saw Clarence, his arms folded across his chest, genie style. He was standing guard in front of the discard pile. May I help you? He asked. Yeah, said Kyle. We want to check out the cards in the bowl. Sorry, said Clarence. You can't have them. But, said Mr. Lemoncello, his face suddenly appearing on every video screen in the room, you can win them. Dressed in a polka-dotted bow tie and snazzy jacket like a game show host, Mr. Lemoncello had one arm resting on a slender plexiglass podium. Behind him, Dr. Zinchenko, all decked out in a sparkly red mini dress, looked like the models that point at prizes on TV. Are the 4 of you ready to play Let's Do a Deal? When Mr. Lemoncello said that, he pushed a big red button on his podium. A pre-recorded studio audience whistled, cheered, and applauded. What's Let's Do a Deal? Asked Kyle. My first game to ever be turned into a TV show, brought to you by Lemon Pledge. Dr. Zinchenko started singing, Lemon Pledge, very pretty, put the shine down, lemon good. Thank you, Dr. Z, said Mr. Lemoncello, bopping the button to make the audience cheer again. Now then, kids, here's the deal. Solve one simple picture puzzle, and you 4 win the 5 library cards in the bowl. And if we lose? Simple. Each of you loses his or her library card and adds it to the discard bowl for our next lucky contestants to try and win. He banged the red button again. The audience cheered exactly the same way they cheered before. Kyle turned to the others. What do you say, guys? Let's go for it, said Akimi. Sierra nodded. Miguel? I'm in, bro. You're joining our team? Absolutely. They knocked knuckles to seal the deal. Mr. Lemoncello must have whacked his button again because the canned studio audience started cheering. Kyle wondered what the sound effects would be if he and his friends lost their library card playing Let's Do a Deal. Probably groans. And weeping. Lots and lots of weeping. That's the end of that chapter. Tomorrow we will continue with chapter 28. And we are on page 143. So I think, how many pages did I say were in this book? 288. We are almost exactly halfway through this book. Look at that. All right. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.